introduce Eddie Lorton, who is candidate for mayor of the city of Reno. Sam, and welcome.
I'll be brief because you're not here to see me and I'm not a candidate. But I just wanted to be able to introduce my friend Eddie Lorton, because he has been in the grind and fight of being a business owner and also working on behalf of our local community for years. And as someone who's been sort of in the trenches before, I know just how much sacrifice that takes. I've also been a business owner here. And so as you know, we all look at things, what are the challenges in our lives? You know, is it finding good employees? Is it being able to make payroll? You know, as interest rates go up, how does that affect our lending? There's real business questions that impact us on a day-to-day basis that unfortunately a lot of politicians just don't understand. And that's one of the reasons I love what Eddie Lorton stands for. He's a business guy with a business mind who wants to bring that mindset to Reno. Get rid of the politicians who are just doing things for their own political gain. There's money that disappears here and there. Eddie will clean things up. Eddie is the right guy with the right mindset to take Reno to where we need to go. And so with that, I'd like to introduce him and thank him for allowing me to introduce him. Thank
you. Anyway, my name is Eddie Lorton, and I'm running for mayor of Reno. Okay, I believe in ethics and transparency. I think it's the only way at City Hall. So the things that I stand for, I'll get into my point shortly, but I want you to know in the future that I will consult with groups like this, if like what we went through a while back with the COVID, things like that. I'm going to talk to businesses and business owners to see if we should shut down or not. I don't believe in that. I believe people in having their own freedom to come down if they want to and visit the business, or if they don't want to and they're not comfortable, they can stay at home. So I would consult with businesses and business owners and groups like this, because I have an open door policy. I return calls. I don't hide and then wait for election time and then come out after hiding for 2 years while we had riots and things like that. So I am for business. I have a lot of big businesses. We own a quarter of the block by the airport. I have a giant recycling plant. We have a lot of other giant business things going, but you know, you never ever thought you'd have to be in politics, but I had to go to council meetings for over 30 years to protect my investments, okay? So I know the system inside and out. So I had to get involved to protect my investments. You think you'll let people that looks out for your well-being, but a lot of times they do not. They're not ethical or transparent. They're padding their own pockets. And that's someone that's a career politician that gets in there for the wrong reasons, where I got in, because how I look at it, I see if you can't beat them, join or beat them. And if you want something done right, do it yourself. So I rolled up my sleeves. I never thought I'd have to be in politics. But you know, after you look around what's happened to our city for the last while, more than 10 to probably 15 years, it's getting devastated. I've lived in this city my whole life, 60 years. I look around, it's a shell of what it used to be. I love this town. If you go downtown, public safety is an issue. So we'll get into my points. Public safety is a big issue in this community. You know, right now the city of Reno is the most dangerous city in the whole state, even over Vegas. Do you realize our murder rate is up over 100%, rape's up over 50%, and try to go downtown and tell me you're safe at any time of day. So I'm going to put more police on the streets. If we ever had a riot, I'm not going to tell our police to stand down when the windows get kicked in, 35 officers get hurt, and then all of a sudden they go down to the police station, kick their windows in. That would never happen under my watch. I believe in law and order. I paid to turn these arch lights blue since 2010 for fallen police. My dad used to be a cop. I was at a council meeting one day. Miss Bohat spoke and said, "No, Bob, do you think we should turn the arch lights blue?" And he said, "We can't afford it." And I got chills. I raised my hand and I said, "No problem, write the check." And he goes, "Eddie," he goes, "that could be this much." I said, "No problem." So from that day forward, I sponsored Turn the Arch Lights Blue for fallen police. So we've done that for the community, but public safety is a giant issue. And secondly, the homeless situation. Look around. Our city council and stuff do the policies of doing nothing that's multiplied by 10. You can go to RGJ articles. We have homeless everywhere. It's destroying businesses and our city. where now they have a place to go. So how I look at it, I'm gonna believe in law and order, and there are laws that's littering, loitering, and trespassing to where they'll have a place to go, but they can't just camp in business doorways. Someone has to do something. So that's a big problem in this community too. Plus, I'm not gonna be in the pockets of out-of-state developers. Okay, they're padding their pockets. You look who the lobbyist is, all the big projects, it's the only lobbyist I've ever seen that has 100% closing ratio and never even speaks at the council meetings. Imagine that. So I think we need to bring transparency back and deal with these issues. Like right now, I wrote the city and property disposal program policies. I found 150 more pieces than the city even knew they owned. I work for giant people in this town and do my own investments, and I'm a real estate expert, but then talk about the incompetence, 150 more pieces than they even knew they owned. So then after that, I wrote them these policies, and then what they do, they hide some of the properties in the redevelopment agency. Even California quit using it. So then they can give these pieces of property instead of selling them on, putting them on the tax rolls. This is a business move that's beyond them. And then you pay down the debt, then put it on the tax rolls, and then other city employees don't have to keep it clean, and they keep parts clean. So then what I proposed was they sell off the city-owned properties like the ballroom, the event center, and the bowling stadium, because a long time ago, the Big Four was supposed to pay for that. The Big Four casinos down there, and then a certain mayor got into place, the city took it over. So we're paying the bond servicing debt, while the Coronos get the ballroom for free, and we're footing the bill, and they do 4 events a year, and we're still paying for that thing. And all city-owned property isn't on the tax rolls. So they need someone like me to come in that's creative, that knows how to crunch numbers, do things. I'm a business analyst and a forensics accountant. I have the perfect tools for this job. I can look at budgets, see what they're doing. I'm not going to be $1 billion in debt. If you looked at the last budget hearing and meeting the city had, okay, our city manager makes $230,000 a year. That's been standard. Guess what? At the last meeting, we're $1 billion in debt. He's in the pocket of developers. They gave him a $200,000 raise. So he's making $430,000 a year, but then they're closing senior centers at Teglia Park. What is going on with that? So they need somebody that has experience and expertise that can help our businesses, that has an open door policy, that's not padding his pockets. I don't need a job. I had to get in politics to help 250,000 people in my town. So that's why I'm doing this. So it's an honor and a privilege to be able to run for mayor. And I know I've ran before, and you know why? I'm persistent, consistent, not a quitter. Don't you want that in somebody to where, you know, sometimes Reno wasn't my demographic, to where, you know, people, it's just how it goes back and forth. They have different ideas than I do, but I wanted to run where I could make change, not where it would be an easy race for me. I like the hardest one of all. I wanted to run where there was the most corruption, because with Reno, I look out for citizens. That was at my detriment, okay? I represent citizens, not the good old boy special interest groups of my friends. I'm not gonna buy artwork from my friends while we have potholes in the streets. So I'm gonna prioritize our money, have an open door policy, talk to you. I want businesses to be open. I would never close our businesses through mandates. I would fight tooth and nail, listen to what the public has to say, because I do believe in freedom. You want to go to the business, you should be able to go to the business. And if you don't want to go, then you should have that right not to go. But we're not going to destroy lives, businesses, business owners. I'm not going to lie to gain votes either. I've told the truth of my detriment before, but that's me. I'm going to be reasonable. That's what made me successful. I listen to everybody. And then what I do is analyze it. And then I make another good decision. But I'm going to get everyone's input. I'm not in no one's pocket. And that's a promise from me to you. So I'm George Eddie Lorton, running for mayor. And I would like to take some questions for a while. I love that. So anyone got some questions for the city of Reno?
I have a question about, you know, it's not up to the city council to improve education, but what are your thoughts about our public education system?
Well, I know the city of Reno, their job is police, fire, public works, and, you know, quality of life issues, but that kind of bleeds down to school and the budgets and the things they do. I think they're really top heavy, like any business. You look, and I take a budget and I like it itemized, so then it's easy to cut the fat, go through it, but they're really heavy on the administrative side, in case you haven't noticed, and it doesn't bleed down to the teacher. That's the unfortunate part. And we're building new schools right and left, and we have some that will make the most out of our money, do it one at a time instead of 12 at a time. And then we have a teacher shortage and a bus shortage. So, I mean, if you run businesses, you know how it's a thing called controlled responsible growth. So they've never heard of that. So then they keep coming back to the well, coming back to the taxpayer instead of making the most out of their money that they have. So how I would look at it is they need to cut down on the administrative side and then be accountable. Like I said, I'm going to be earlier for the money spent. And then I wish they'd get back to teaching instead of politics. I think that's a big problem with our schools nowadays too. You know, we're last in the nation. And if you look at all their websites, they think, oh, everything's great. And they fluff everything up like my opponent and others act like everything's fine. What city do you live in? What denial are you in? All you have to do is go downtown, look around, look at 4-story complexes in people's backyard because they don't know what control, responsible infill development means. I mentioned it. They take my ideas, use it as their own, then mess it up implementing it. So when it comes to things like this, you need to know what you're doing. You need to look at the budget and then try to get to teaching and forget about politics. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I think they're doing in the school system. Okay, thank you for that. Yes.
Hi, so as Reno mayor, how would you address this regional housing crisis that we find ourselves in?
Okay, I think we need more affordable housing, and this is how we deal with that. I think outside the box. I've worked for some big people in this town as a headhunter for water and land acquisition, so I know what I'm doing. Okay, so what I would do is put it more on the developer. Do you know since 2007 and 2008, they ended up lowering the sewer fee from like 15,000 hookup to like 10,000. Now we're in a boom. Notice how they didn't increase that hookup fee. And now your bill goes up 10% a year as they give Reno Land Development $3.6 million out of your sewer fund for a subsidy for a certain lobbyist in town, and she got a bonus. So I know where the skeletons are lying, what we're going to do. So what I'm going to do on this housing crisis, I'm going to hold the developer responsible for it. My idea was this, okay? They want their gigantic apartment complexes approved, but they're going to, first off, we're going to define affordable housing to the Reno Housing Authority first. And then after that, see, I do things in steps to where it's very, you know, studied, and we look at it, we take ideas and then put together the best model. Every business owner puts together a business model, and then you apply it first, see how it works out, and then you go on and make it live. But what I would do was see what affordable housing means. And then I'm going to make the developer be responsible. If they're going to get this high density apartment complexes on, they're going to end up making 30% affordable. And if not, then it's going to be on their backs instead of the citizens, and it won't get approved. But then for those that are doing like 10, units or 4 units, we're going to have to really study this whole situation. Then I think they should be able to pay into a fund, because how can you do 30% or 10 or even 5% affordable if you just have 10 units or something? So there has to be a break-even point where you do profits versus what they can and can't do to where they're still making money, because in the end, they're the ones making the money. So I would study it that way to where the developers paying more of their part. In the old days, they used to have to pay for police and fire stations and parks, and they got excused from all that. So I know the history. I went to council meetings 30 years. I know the city better than all of them put together. So I'm going to know what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And I know the old models of what they did, and some of it worked, but now some of them forgot about those things. Like, for instance, here, do you know when you were paying your gas taxes? We pay a lot in taxes here in gas. And that NRS, when they approved it legislatively, all that extra money that you were paying on gas taxes was supposed to go for road repair and maintenance. It gets forgotten through time. They morph it into the Southeast connector and the Northeast connector because the developers make more money through that, but they forget what the original NRS said. And I'd be fighting things like that to where we could fix the potholes in our streets. Okay, they don't make as much money, but that's their tough luck. I'm going to spend the money on what it was supposed to be spent on. For 12 years ago, I told this city, the county is responsible to place and pay for the homeless shelter. Said that for the last 12 years. Okay, guess what happened a month ago? The county's paying now. The city of Reno wasted $77 million on a non-city issue. So that would never happen to me. If you ever looked at my history or go to my site, everything I called out over 12 years was dead right on. I wasn't wrong on one thing. So that's what made me successful in business. I can call it out. I see it before it happens. I know the law, I study it, and then I make a decision. So I would have saved the 77 million there. I wouldn't have bought the new police station for $7 million with a mold and asbestos riddled building and then took it off the tax rolls. I would have used part of this real estate the city owns, an empty lot. We'd have built a state-of-the-art from the ground up and saved the 7 million and kept that on the tax rolls. I know it gets complicated, but I think it's time for a change to where, wouldn't you rather have someone with substance in there or what we have today? And I said we gave youthful enthusiasm a chance. Now it's time for strong leadership. So I think our city's ready for this. I'm ready to perform for you. But the bottom line, I have to get in there. I fought hard, but I was right. But you know, it's hard to beat the machine. But I think this time we have the best chance of winning ever. And she has 10 years of baggage. Look what's happened to our city. There's been a lot of corruption. I mean, you can go back. I can mention so many things, but this ain't about them all together. But I believe in accountability and making people accountable for what they've done and what they have done. Right now, she's running against term limits. I went to the Supreme Court in 2014, set case law for term limits, 12 years on the same governing body. I know what it says. It's named after me, Lorton versus Jones. So now nobody will uphold the law. So once again, I'm going to have to take her to the Supreme Court to have her uphold the law, or this time I'm just going to beat her at the ballot box, because you know how court is. Sometimes, and now they're making weird decisions, even if you're 1,000% right, you could lose, and then that would give her momentum. The only way you can beat her is in court. I want to beat her at the ballot box. Yes, sir.
Yeah, 2 questions. First one, the RCB board, RCBA, has political members. Yes, sorry.
Yes.
Has political members that are on that board. And the reason I asked this question is the current mayor got over $1 million from them for the mayor's convention.
Yes,
what
sir.
Thoughts on that and, you know, having people like that on that board?
Okay, well, actually, I see Miss Silver there today, and I spoke specifically on that. I came in here, I never been to an RSCBA meeting before, but then I studied that, found out about that quite a while back. So here we go. I don't think politicians should be on that board. And, you know, they used to have, this council had 3 members on the board, but that'll show you how smart she is. And she goes, well, we should have more diversity. And then now the city of Reno has 1 less seat. So that wasn't very smart. But the thing of it is this, I don't think politicians should be in there or their friends. So the thing is, it should be a scattered body of people that are diverse but smart, men, women, every group that are strong business people in this community that have something to offer, so we can come up with the best equation. So this would happen, and that's why I went into complaint today. Here we are. Okay, I don't want this group to be used for a political tool. And they destroyed an old chairman of that board that was okay, I heard. I didn't know him personally, but it was through lies and the 6th grade thing that they do. So I think it's time to grow up around here, and let's get into our city and politics and running it correctly and cleaning this town up and serving citizens. So on that board, I went in complaint. So they used them for a political tool. So they ended up budgeting $1 million for that mayor's convention. And it's weird, it's at politic time, so she could get a press release. So they ended up spending about $200,000, but they budgeted $1 million to have that mayor's convention here. But you know what? It backfired. You know how? All her supporters and the people were picketing it outside with all these signs saying the mayor's this and the mayor's that. We have housing and homeless issues, and you're trying to do another political ploy. So she does all these things for press releases. Look at the news. Now she's talking about, public safety for the firemen, the safety agreement. So she'll do that, do a press release. And, you know, we didn't see her for 2 years during the riots, was shut down from COVID. She tried to jump the gun on the city and the county. It was probably embarrassing, and she didn't support them. And now we don't see her for 2 years, and she pops out and running, and she's everywhere. So I don't think they should be on that board. And then they used it for a political tool for her, where I think this new group will not do that, and glad to see it. But he raised his hand for one more, and then you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I know you're going to run out of time pretty quick.
Okay.
I keep going for hours. I know. It's all good too. There's still government workers that are working from home. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I've always been a performance person. I like to see them there. I like to talk thoughts. I'm a more touchy-feely seeing them there. So it would depend. I think there's room. I analyze everything. I'm not going to make judgment here and now, because sometimes it might be an advantage, sometimes a disadvantage, but I like workers to be at work. That's just, I'm old school. I have ethics and morals, and I work hard for the money, and I show up. So, and like if we had this too, I'd have an open door policy. I'd have you come in my office and talk to you if you wanted to. So I believe in showing up for work. But if it might be advantageous to have some that, you know, instead of babysitting, they can save you more, great. But I know they have to perform for the city first, and then we go backwards from there. So that's my thoughts on that. Okay, yes, ma'am.
That was your 5-minute warning, not a question.
Huh?
That was your 5-minute warning that I was.
Okay, cool. So what else we got? Bring it on. Yes, sir.
It takes a lot of courage to run for office, and it takes even more courage to do it multiple times, so I commend you for that.
Yes, sir.
As you reflect back on the prior experiences, what do you think were some of the barriers that you faced that didn't get you over the finish line?
Yeah.
And how is the landscape today,
Yep.
in comparison, do you think is a clearer path for you?
Well, what I think in the past, once I won at the Supreme Court, they threw in Hillary. She had already been there, okay? And then it's all them running against me, the machine, the good old boys, special interest groups and their friends, which is casino owners and all, that's a giant group. And I always knew, yes, we set case law in the state for term limits, but Bob Cashel himself had stated, I'd be crazy to endorse someone in a 20 mayor race, right? So it would have been me and Hillary, we were neck and neck. And then he comes out the day before and endorses Ray, okay? Why? Because he's afraid of the non-establishment candidate Eddie Lorton's momentum, which was me. So they've all tried to submarine me. Why? Because I support you. They don't want that. They want what they want. They want their special interest groups to be fulfilled. I never gave in one step of the way. I will always fight for business owners, citizens, people. That is the American dream. It's what you put into it and you get paid. You can't sit at home and get paid. Some do, but that's all the goals they want to reach. Where me, I say you get out and earn what you get. And so as far as that, they always ran against me, but I think there's been a change in the economy the last 2 years that was advantageous for me. And now I was right about all these things, and they see everything I was saying all these years about this current regime is true. And I've heard some nasty rumors, imagine her going in 2 years and then this new appointment, maybe Devin, that would destroy our city. So I say it the way it is. So imagine that for our city, it'd be horrible. Someone on the verge of 2 bankruptcies, he had one and on, but I just want to tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a good job, I'll be transparent, I'll answer phone calls. I'm a strong businessman, we own giant businesses, okay, I'm real estate, 3 states. I do this because I actually care. So when I get hard-headed and I'm stuck in there, I knew they're all going against me, but I was hoping one day the people would see the light, and they'd see the light from what I'm gonna do for them, and they could see the light on what's been done to them. Go look around, they'll have on their sites, everything's flying great. Go downtown, look at our city, compare it to 10 years ago. Are you happy? That's the only question you have to ask yourself. And if you give me the chance to represent you, I'll be a rabid bulldog for your needs every single day. So that's why they haven't liked me, but I say tough. I'm gonna always represent people, okay? Thank you for that question. Anything, yes?
You said you got into politics because it started affecting your business, and so, so how would your business gain by you being in office, or
Okay,
take with it?
that's a good, fair question. Well, most of my stuff is out of this county altogether, okay? So we don't do anything. I will always abstain from the vote if it affects my business. Look, right now, there's certain council members that lobby from the dais and votes on the very things they represent, and they get paid from both sides. I'm ethical. I will never do that. I'm doing this because I care, and I'm going to call out some of them too. If it even seems to be, as far as ethics go, if it even seems to be a conflict of interest, you're supposed to abstain from the vote. They never do. Look at, like my opponent, HillarySheBeFacts.com. She says that she knew Jessica, and it says it like 50 times where she abstained from the vote, but it won't affect her vote, but voted yes every time. So imagine that. So I'm going to call it out, do it, live it. I won't be voting on anything that affects my business. And now I'm down to a couple. I'm retired at 60, kind of semi-retired. So I'm not in no one's pocket. I'm going to work hard. And I'm still a young enough man to add stability to the city for 12 years. And wouldn't that be nice from someone not in people's pockets? So is my time up?
Yep, your time is up.
Okay, well, my name's George Eddie Lorton, running for Reno Mayor. I appreciate your time tonight. I promise if I am lucky enough to get elected, I'll do an excellent job for you. I worked hard, I learned it, I have institutional knowledge that takes years to build through having to go to meetings because I seen the corruption and I had to take my lawyers to meetings. So isn't that someone that you want fighting for you because what's working out now isn't working out too well? So you can go to my website at eddylorton.com to either donate or volunteer, have a fundraiser, whatever you can do. I have yard sign stickers. If you see businesses support me, Reno+Sparks Cap, have my stickers on every one. Reno Rock Trucks, all the stickers, Lakeside Trucking. These people believe in me and I hope you can. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Some of it too, and mention some of the detail on what I do. Thank you. Yeah.